All right. We are talking about peptides. We're talking glutamine, which is the body's most important amino acid and peptide builder. And we're talking about insulin and sugar. Under ordinary circumstances, you kind of want to keep your sugar intake down. You want to keep your insulin down. But when you're coming home from the gym, or when you want to increase the absorption of amino acids or protein or supplements, you want a little bit of an insulin spike, a little bit of an insulin bump. Insulin's main role in the body, we talk about insulin all the time as being a sugar control hormone, a hormone that helps the body handle sugar. And indeed, that is one of insulin's important roles. But insulin is really a feeding hormone. Insulin announces to cells that the body is being fed. That's why when you eat a little bit of bread or you eat a little bit of food, your insulin levels go up. Insulin tells cells to open up their gates. Insulin, in essence, rings a cell's doorbell. Insulin lets a cell know that there's a delivery coming in, or delivery's about to come in, and insulin lets the cell know that it needs to open up its doors. And this way, insulin is a storage hormone. Low levels of insulin, such as those that occur during hunger or starvation, stimulate fat burning. High levels of insulin stimulate fat storage. Low levels of insulin stimulate mobilization of fats. Low levels of insulin initiate the burning of fats and the burning of sugars as fuel. Low levels of insulin are fat burning, and high levels of insulin, which is what most of us are dealing with all the time, especially if we follow that crazy dietitian advice of constantly grazing and constantly eating and just keeping food in our belly all day long. High levels of insulin result in fat storing, especially in the major fat storage areas, which are the belly and the lower back and the hip area and the butt as well. You want to lose belly fat? I get a lot of letters from people who want to lose belly fat, and it's a little bit tricky to target fat loss, but if you really want to lose belly fat, probably the best thing you could do is lower insulin and reduce your intake of insulin-spiking foods. Same if you want to lose thigh fat or hip fat, and even if you want to improve cellulite as well. Lower your insulin. You want to lose fat anywhere, really, lower your insulin. In any case, even if you're just a regular Joe and you're getting a mini workout to stay in shape, insulin spiking can be a strategy that can help you. Just like lowering your insulin will help you burn fat, lowering your insulin will help you mobilize nutrients. A little bit of an insulin spike when you come home from the gym, especially if you're doing protein and essential fatty acids and other nutrients, aminos, creatine, vitamins, minerals, whatever. That's when you want a little bump in insulin. A little bit of bump in your insulin levels will improve the storage and utilization and absorption of nutrients and protein and fats and sugar as well. And dropping your insulin, lowering your insulin will improve your body's ability to use, to burn, to take advantage of nutrients, to exploit sugars and fats, to burn sugars and fats so you lose weight. When you come home from the gym, spike your insulin. All other times, keep your insulin low. You come home from the gym, throw a few berries in your smoothie, maybe a quarter banana, maybe a little bit of molasses, which also has some iron and B vitamins and other building nutrients, some potassium as well. All other times, you want to keep your insulin levels low. And of course, we know the best way to do that is to restrict your intake of starchy carbohydrates and sugary foods. If you're trying to wean yourself off of sugar, if you're trying to get off of sugar, in order to avoid insulin spiking, remember, insulin is encouraging the storage of sugar. It's removal from the blood. And elevations in insulin can cause you to go on this hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, high blood sugar roller coaster, causing you to eat more sugar, increase your appetite. That'll raise your blood sugar, more insulin. Many of us go through this high blood sugar, low blood sugar roller coaster for our whole lives and for decades until the body just finally gives up, stops listening to insulin, becomes insulin resistant. That's called diabetes. That's when they put you on drugs like metformin or Avandia or Actos or Resulin that basically force, doctor style, medical model style, they force your body to react to insulin. Of course, the body doesn't like to be forced to do anything, and that's where side effects come in. And by the way, the liver, which is a major site of insulin and sugar metabolism, is especially affected by these kinds of drugs. So if you're trying to wean yourself off of sugar, well, that's where glutamine comes in. Glutamine is one of the most powerful supplements you could ever take for helping you wean yourself off of sugar. First of all, glutamine can be used by fuel or used by cells as fuel. in the same way that glucose can. Glutamine can actually fuel cells in the same way glucose can. Cells can get their energy needs met from glutamine, as well as from glucose, as well as from sugar. But glutamine will not trigger insulin like sugar does. How do you like that? You'll get the same energy benefits or similar energy benefits from glutamine that you do from sugar, but you're not going to get the same kind of insulin spike that you do that from sugar. And that makes glutamine super important, not just for weaning yourself off of sugar, but it makes it super important for diabetics. You're going to get the energy that you need. Your cells will get the energy that you need, but you're not going to necessarily get that insulin bump, and you're not going to raise your insulin. You're not going to get that same kind of insulin resistance that you get when you eat a lot of sugar. Glutamine is like glucose on its best behavior. Glutamine is like a mild-mannered version of sugar or of glucose. Sugar has a really strong personality. Glucose has a really strong personality. You can think of glucose like a cocky, obnoxious drunk at a bar that needs to be escorted out of the blood quickly. Glucose is a bad boy. Glucose is kind of sexy. Everybody's attracted to glucose. All living things, all living cells love glucose. But glucose is cocky. Glucose is obnoxious a little bit. It has to be escorted out of the blood. If it gets really cocky, the body will put glucose to sleep. It'll knock out glucose. The technical term for glucose that's been knocked out, the technical term for glucose that's been put to sleep is our fat butts. That's what fat is. Fat is glucose, obnoxious, cocky glucose that's been put to sleep. Now, glutamine, that's much more introverted. Glutamine, maybe more refined is a better way of saying it. Glutamine is like a refined, sophisticated version of glucose, like the Patty Duke show. I don't know if you guys remember the Patty Duke show from back in the 60s. There was Patty Duke, who was kind of this cocky, sexy woman, and then there was her subtle, refined cousin. I forgot her name. And her subtle, refined cousin looked exactly like Patty Duke, but she was more classy. Well, that's what glutamine is. Glutamine looks a lot like glucose to a cell. It can be used like glucose for a cell, but it's much more subtle and mild-mannered. Glucose is like a jock. Glutamine is like a librarian. Until glutamine gets into a cell, that is. Glutamine, as an energy molecule, as an energy, as a way that cells can derive energy, is really very understated. That is, until you get your glutamine in the cell. Then glutamine becomes super energizing, just like glucose does. I'll tell you what I mean when we come back from our break. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. Our number 855-660-4261. Got a couple lines open for you. We'll be back right after this. Don't go away. All right, we're talking glutamine and glucose. I just love this stuff. Now, indeed, glutamine does have a dark side, and we will be talking about that. You don't want to go nuts on glutamine, but certainly taking it on a regular basis, on a daily basis, maybe a teaspoon or half a teaspoonful of glutamine powder can go a long way towards giving you some health benefits. We'll talk about some of these there's really multiple health benefits associated with using glutamine as a supplement, but one of my favorite ways to use glutamine is to help wean people off of sugar. Glutamine, as I was saying before the break, glutamine can be used by cells like sugar, but glutamine is much more understated. Glucose is like a jock. It's like cocky. It's explosive and sexy. Everything likes glucose. Glutamine is like a librarian until it gets into a cell, that is. Glutamine gets into the cell, and it rips off its glasses, lets down its hair, becomes just as cocky and just as sexy and just as strong a personality as glucose. It contributes to cell energy in the same way that glucose does. And when a cell is getting its energy needs met, the blood will be happy, the brain will be happy, the entire body will be happy. That means no hypoglycemia. That means no low blood sugar. That means you get off of that hyperglycemia, high blood sugar, low blood sugar roller coaster. That means happy cells. And all without having to deal with the loud, obnoxious glucose getting kicked out of the blood by the blood's bouncer, insulin. Insulin can be thought of like the bouncer that shuttles glucose out of the blood. If you take glutamine, you use glutamine, you don't have to worry about that insulin coming out. Glutamine will affect insulin a little bit, but not a lot. That's why glutamine can be said to be a diabetic's best nutritional supplement friend, or a pre-diabetic's best nutritional supplement friend. In fact, glutamine's stabilizing effect on insulin and on high blood sugar can actually improve insulin sensitivity. That means if you're dealing with insulin resistance, and so many of us are, 100 million Americans nearly, 1 out of 3 Americans or so are dealing with some kind of insulin resistance problem, so-called pre-diabetes problem, and you can improve insulin sensitivity by using glutamine. You can lower or reduce your insulin secretion, improve its sensitivity. But at the same time, glutamine will actually decrease the sensitivity of fat cells to insulin. How do you like that? Glutamine will increase ordinary cell sensitivity to insulin, but it seems to have an effect of decreasing fat cells' sensitivity to insulin. It actually makes fat cells less responsive to the fat storage effects of insulin. So glutamine will increase ordinary cells' ability to process nutrients, but it will decrease how much sugar gets stored as fat. Glutamine will actually decrease fat storage. That means skinnier thighs, skinnier hips, and less belly fat too. How do you like that for one supplement? Look at all the benefits you get from glutamine. Now, as I said, you don't want to go nuts on this stuff because there's a little bit of a dark side. I'll tell you what that is here in a little bit, but there's so many other benefits that you get from using glutamine. And, of course, because glutamine is increasing sensitivity to insulin, it means insulin's not going to be as active. It means sugar isn't going to be pulled out of the blood. That means you're not going to be craving sugar. You're not going to be craving breads. You're not going to be craving pasta. If you're trying to diet, you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to wean yourself off of sugars, think about using glutamine. Glutamine is satisfying. Foods that have glutamine in them are satisfying foods. Bone soup is particularly loaded with glutamine, and that makes bone soup a diabetic's best food friend. If glutamine is a diabetic's best supplement friend, bone soup, which is loaded with glutamine, is a diabetic's best food friend, or at least one of a diabetic's best food friends. One cell in particular really, really loves glutamine. Glutamine is like a soulmate for this type of cell. This is a cell that's called an enterocyte. Cyte just means cell. Whenever you hear cyte, like a keratinocyte or enterocyte, we're just talking about a cell. CYTE is the suffix for cell. An enterocyte is an intestinal cell. And enterocytes, or intestinal cells, the cells that line the digestive tract, love glutamine. In fact, there is no cell in the body that loves glutamine more than your intestinal cells. In fact, while glutamine can be used as fuel by lots of different cells, glutamine is an intestinal cell's main source of energy, and this is one of the main reasons why bone soup loaded with glutamine is so healing and soothing for the digestive tract. And glutamine supplementation can be helpful for improving overall gut health, not just the enterocytes, but overall gut health. Processing of foods benefit from glutamine supplementation. Glutamine is found in protein-dense foods. Whey protein is an especially good source of glutamine. In fact, this is one of the distinguishing features of whey protein, and it's very hard for vegan foods to duplicate. Whey protein is a major building protein. It's absolutely packed with glutamine. It even has some glutathione in it too. Remember, glutathione is a tripeptide. It's made up partially of glutamine. Glutathione's got some cysteine and glycine, and glutathione is the body's primary cancer fighter. But glutamine is one of the key components in glutathione, and you're going to find lots of glutamine in whey protein. There's an interesting relationship between glutamine and cancer. A cancer cell is a cell that has learned how to derive energy from a lot of different sources. Biochemists will tell you that a cancer cell uses energy efficaciously, but not efficiently. Meaning that a cancer cell can get energy from a lot of different sources. It's very efficacious in terms of how it derives energy, but it doesn't process that energy very efficiently. It wastes a lot of energy. Cancer cells are not very organized. Cancer cells are primitive, kind of backward cells. They're Neanderthal cells. A cancer cell is a cell that's gone backwards in evolution. It can derive energy from fats. It can derive energy from sugar. It can derive energy from glutamine, but it doesn't derive energy very effectively. It's not very organized. It's not very structured. A cancer cell is like a monstrous, distorted version of a cell, but it can derive energy from a lot of different sources, and one of those sources is glutamine. That's why some medical folks will tell you that you don't want to use glutamine if you're dealing with cancer, but you know what? The opposite is actually true. because cancer cells use glutamine for fuel, and because they're dividing and burning through energy so quickly, they can actually cause a depletion of this super important amino acid in healthy cells. And because healthy cells use glutamine to make cancer-fighting substances like glutathione, if you're dealing with some kind of cancerous growth, healthy cells running out of glutamine is not a good thing. All right, we'll continue this discussion about glutamine. I'm going to tell you about bodybuilding, muscle building, and glutamine on our next Brightside episode. We're coming back with your phone calls. 855-660-4261 is our number. We'll be back on the Brightside right after this. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. Time to hit our phones. 855-660-4261 is our number. Ken in Indiana, what's going on, my man? Welcome to The Bright Side.
Pharmacist Ben Fuchs, you are such a blessing. You're doing the Lord's work with all the
Praise God.
And knowledge. You really are. Listen, I called you a few weeks ago. I've been doing a lot of study of your archives, and I've got a lot of knowledge. I have two questions. We have time for the second one about the immune system. But
Ken, I need you to speak up. I'm having a hard time hearing you, buddy. Can you talk into the phone, or if I'm on speaker, get me off the speaker?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Much better, much better.
Okay. Well, I have two questions. The one's about the immune system. That's the second question if we have time. But I'm building a retirement cabin, and I'm in the initial stages of it. And I'm concerned about electronic fog. Now, I've studied a lot about the body electric. I went through all of your programs, and I really am a student of yours. And, of course, the skin is an organ. And we go out in the sun and we receive nutrition. How healthy is it to live inside basically an electronic cage, electricity in the wall?
It's awful. It's awful, and this has only been the last 120 years or so since, when was electricity? When did we start having all this EMF stuff in the environment? Maybe the late 19th century. So it's really it's only been 120, 130, 140 years, and it's absolutely awful. I got an iPhone. It's pretty much glued to my ear. Only God knows what's happening to my brain. It's interesting. I just had this discussion last night at dinner with some folks. There's nothing you can do about it. We live, like you say, in an EMF cage. We're surrounded with it. What you can do, however, is you can control the variables that you do have some control over. We live in a toxic world. We live in an awful world. We've polluted our planet. We crap in our water, we drink it. We spew toxins in the air, we breathe it. We eat garbage food. I mean, there's only so much we can do because our environment and our culture is so polluted. So you're just not going to make it to 120 more than likely. You're not, we have 120 God-given years, and we're probably not going to get them. And we probably have double the risk. Let me just finish this up real quick, Ken. We have double the risk of cancer, especially now with Fukushima. So instead of 10 people out of 100 getting cancer, now 20 people out of 100 are going to get cancer. But you know what, Ken? 80 people out of 100 are not going to get cancer. Some people are going to make it through, and those are going to be the people that know how to control the variables they can control. Yeah, we live in an EMF cage. Point well taken. We live in a radioactive planet. That's the facts. We live in a world where we're drinking poison water, we're eating poison food. There's nothing we could do about that. But what we can do is we can supplement, we can eat less food, we can breathe correctly, we can not eat the corporate swill. We can become spiritual. We can work on our mental and emotional natures. There's so many places we can work. When it comes to EMFs, you can use nutritional supplements to protect you. Vitamin C is stupendously important for protecting you from EMFs. How many folks are getting 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C? Probably a lot that are listening to this program. But if you go out in the street and talk to most folks, hardly anybody's supplementing with vitamin C. Hardly anybody's supplementing at all, except for maybe a multivitamin. So there's a lot of things we can do. Point well taken. The EMF cage, I like the way you describe that. It's awful. Our radioactive planet is awful. Our polluted water and air is awful. But there are things that we can do. And it doesn't, last thing I'm going to say here, Ken, it doesn't do us any good to be screaming and to be scared. It doesn't do us any good to be angry and to be in fear. What anger and fear does is it suppresses your body's ability to fight these things. So we're breathing in the toxins. We're swimming in electromagnetic energy. And on top of all that, we're suppressing our body's ability to handle it with our fear and with our anger. Fear and anger are never appropriate, ever, with the exception of perhaps a little bit of burst of righteous anger, or maybe the kind of fear that gets you out of a terrible situation quickly. But in the long term, chronic fear, chronic anger do nothing to help matters, but there are a lot of things we can indeed do, and that includes nutritional supplementation, getting on a good nutritional supplement program, getting on the BTT, getting on the Sweeties, using spirulina, using chlorella, using NAC, using vitamin C, there is zeolite, bentonite clay. It's almost endless the amount of ways that we can protect ourselves from these things. Sorry to be long-winded there, Ken. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, the thing is, I understand that, but if I have a choice, I want to choose wisely. See, I can have...
Ken, I'm having a hard time hearing you. You got to talk into the mic.
Okay. I'm talking about if I build this location, I don't have to have... I can have electricity, but I can have an electricity room and use DC deep cell battery.
Sure. Yeah, but that's...
that's
great. That's great, Ken, but not everybody can do that. But that's great. If you can do that, that's awesome.
Is there a book you could recommend that before it's building supplies? The installation?
A couple good books. There's a couple good books. I got to go to my library, Ken. I got to run to my library to find them. There's a couple of interesting books that talk about protecting you from EMFs. I'll try to get those after when we come back from the break. Okay?
Let me get my second question to you real quick, if I may. I'm attacking mushrooms for the polysaccharides. I'm taking those to stimulate the immune system, but I'm a bit confused about, because you've said that activates the immune system when you have an inflammation. But then we take things to boost the immune system. So what's the difference between boosting and activating?
That's a good question. I think of it like torque. Torque is like power, right? You don't want your wheels spinning really fast. You want your wheels spinning powerfully. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's a difference between speed and power. An immune system that's out of control is like an immune system that's spinning really fast. What you're looking to do is get more torque with your immune system, more power with your immune system, so it doesn't have to spin as fast. And that's where the boosting the immune system comes in, using nutritional supplements and restricting things that suppress the immune system. You're making your immune system more powerful and not as chaotic and fast. Does that make sense?
Yes, so I'm attacking mushrooms and I'm taking the polysaccharides. Is good.
Keep doing it.
All right, you can't over boost the immune system.
No, not with supplements. No, you can't do. You're not going to make your immune system too active with supplements. You'll make it more powerful, and that's a good thing. But you're not going to make it too active. Ken, I got to move on, and I had a hard time hearing you. I hope I answered all your questions because I did have a hard time hearing you. Thanks for the kind words too. All right, guys, hang tight. We'll get to your phone calls when we come back from our break. If you're on hold, stay there. We will be back on the bright side with more good health information. 855-660-4261 is our number. We'll be back after this. All right, we're back on the bright side. Hunter in Texas. What's going on, my man? Welcome to the bright side.
Hi, hey, good morning.
Good morning.
I have some questions. What do you think about kombucha?
Love it. Kombucha's awesome stuff.
Do you know how it's made?
Yeah, it's a fungus, I believe. Actually, it's a bacterial colony that grows on a fungus. You make it by yourself. You can make it yourself in your refrigerator. You get something called the mother, which is the base, and you just let it sit in the refrigerator. And I'm pretty sure it's a bacterial colony that grows on a fungus. I'm not exactly sure of the details.
Yeah, well, we make it at home, but you feed it sugar. You feed it tons and tons of cane sugar.
Yeah, the bacteria live on the sugar.
Right, it supposedly eats it all, but
and then it produces acid. It turns that sugar into acid, is what happens. Kombucha is actually a blend, I think, of fungus and bacteria. It's kind of the two, and they do feed on sugar, and then they turns the sugar into acid and lactic acid specifically, I believe, and that's what gives it that kind of sour taste, that vinegary taste. But the bacteria have a probiotic effect on your digestive system that can be very helpful.
Right,
I love kombucha.
So when I consume it, I'm not consuming a bunch of sugar then, right?
No. The bacteria are transforming that sugar. They're feeding on that sugar.
Okay, because I've gotten to the point in my life where anything starchy or any sugar makes me have severe abdominal bloating.
You should be fine with it. Have you noticed that with the kombucha?
If we don't let it ferment long enough.
Probably you're getting some sugar then. Yeah, you want to let it ferment. You want to let the bacteria kind of digest and process all that sugar. They'll turn it into acid, and the bacteria can be very supportive for your digestive system. And it's actually a blend of bacteria and yeast.
Right.
Does that help you?
Yeah, that does. And one more thing, you say bone soup has a lot. You know, we do a lot of bone soup, but when you talk about bone soup, are you talking about beef bones or chicken bones?
Any bones. Any bones. The best are going to be cartilage bones that have a lot of cartilage, like chicken bones. Fish bones.
Fish?
Yeah, they don't have as much cartilage. The good stuff's in the cartilage. So you want the cartilage is really what you want. That knobby part on the top of the chicken bone or the turkey bone, that kind of white stuff. That's the good stuff. That's where the polysaccharides are and all the good proteins. But the bones itself, the marrow, will get you some stuff too. But the good stuff is in the cartilage. The more cartilage you have, the better off you're going to be. And chicken bones are the best, in my opinion. But yeah, fish bones, all bones will work.
Okay, all right, man. All right, you're the man. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hunter. Take care, buddy. Hunter's from Texas. I forgot. I'm going to be in Austin, in Wichita Falls this Saturday, and then I'll be in Austin on the 23rd. Hopefully, I'll see you guys out there. If you're listening in Austin or in Wichita Falls, make sure you stop by and say hello. And that's going to be in Wichita Falls this Saturday, and then next Thursday, a week from tomorrow, in Austin at Brave New Books. Okay, let's see who's next on the line. Steve, what is going on, my man? How you doing?
This is Steve. Yeah, excuse me. We have a relative who, against our advice, got her thyroid taken out a few years ago. They said it was cancerous, and it wasn't in the end. But we were wanting to send her some iodoral, but we don't know what the dosage is that we
12.5 milligrams. A good dose is 12.5 milligrams. I call it the Brownstein dose. That's Dr. David Brownstein's, and a lot of other folks, but that's his dose. The recommended daily allowance is 100 times less. It's 125 micrograms. So multiply that by 100 times, and you get 12.5 milligrams, and that is the David Brownstein dose. And I'm going by his dose. I'm using his information. That's what I would do.
They told her a number. I'm not sure what it actually means. They gave her a number of 88, but I don't know what that's referring to, what the measurement really is.
88 micrograms? I don't know what that would be either.
I'm not sure. Maybe so. But,
yeah, no, I couldn't tell you on that.
Yeah. Okay. And you say 12.5
milligrams.
Milligrams, so whatever that would measure out to. But iodoral is good for that?
Yep, iodoral is perfect for that. I think they come 25 milligrams, so you maybe half an iodoral. They may be a 12.5 milligram too. It's very difficult to overdose on iodine. I mean, you don't want to go crazy, obviously, but you could take, Dr. Guy Abraham, who's another iodine specialist. He talks about taking super high doses. I think he mentions 50 milligram doses, which is a lot. I'm not saying yay or nay on that, but he's an iodine expert, and he talks about those kinds of high doses. So certainly 12.5 milligrams should be no problem. What you don't want to do is go by the RDAs. You never want to go by the RDAs. Those are ridiculous. The ridiculous deprivation allowance. That's what I call those things. Yeah. Does that help, Steve?
And yes, thank you. And just one other thing on the glutamine, this L-glutamine that we get from Whole Foods.
That's the stuff.
Is that the one you're speaking of?
That's the stuff, L-glutamine, yes, sir.
Oh, okay. And that's good is that also good, did you say, to fight cancer as well?
Heck yeah. It's major cancer fighter. Major cancer. One of the most important.
And I've been taking the chromium. Actually, you were the one who told me on the chromium and the
vanadium
for the diabetes, and that's been helping me a lot.
Good deal, Steve. Thanks for sharing, buddy. Got to move on, okay? Did I answer all your questions?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. Have a good day, man. Okay, let's see. John in Texas. Got a couple minutes here. What's going on, my man?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. How can we help you?
I have a question about my dad. He's got emphysema.
Okay.
He's about a 75-year-old. He's 6'1", about 200 pounds, and he's been having a real hard time breathing and all that for about 4 years or so. I was just seeing if give me some advice.
Lots you could do. First of all, still practice the breathing. You work on those muscles, and that can help. So even if it's hard to breathe, you can still breathe. You can still force yourself to do it. And then there's some great nutritional. Well, secondly, you want to make sure there's no inflammation going on in the body. That can mess things up, and that means foods. So working on his foods and probiotics, that can be very helpful. And then directly for the lungs, there's lots of wonderful nutrients you can use. Vitamin C and E are stupendously important for lung health. 2,000, 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C, 400 international units of vitamin E, and I would be using the deluxe form of vitamin E. They're called tocotrienols. We've talked about those in the past. And then also something called NAC, which stands for N-acetylcysteine, is also very helpful for lung health. In fact, as we've said many times before, NAC is actually a prescription drug for dealing with the lungs. I would probably be using some selenium. Get on the OPC selenium from Longevity, maybe 400 micrograms a day, and make sure he's sipping on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. And last but not least, don't forget about anti-inflammatory essential fatty acids. Very important for all inflammatory issues. Emphysema is partially an inflammatory issue. And get him on the Ultimate EFAs, and that's a great way to get his essential fatty acids. Make sure he takes them with food, though, so he can maximize his absorption. And make sure he takes them with the vitamin E, actually. Vitamin E and the essential fatty acids with foods, and he could probably throw the selenium in there as well with his foods. Okay?
Okay, I had one more question. What about,
Sure.
I heard about doing breathing treatments with colloidal silver. Is that helpful?
Breathing in colloidal silver, nebulizing colloidal silver, putting it in a nebulizer. Yeah, that can definitely be helpful. Absolutely, I would think about that. Colloidal silver is great stuff. All right, good deal. Good to talk to you, John. Have a good day. Okay, got a few minutes to talk to you, Jason. What's going on? How can we help you?
Hey, Ben.
Hey.
Yeah, I've got quite a few things going on, I think. I guess they're probably all related, but my big concern right now is that I went in to have a mole removed and biopsied, and it was malignant melanoma.
Okay, well, that's not good.
And partly at that same time, I had noticed under my right armpit on the same side was as the mole was like a swollen, I guess it turned out to be, I guess it's the lymph node. And I wasn't sure what it was at the time.
How old are you? You sound young. You sound young, Jason. How old are you?
I'm actually 46, so I guess hopefully that's young.
It's right in the middle. Right in the middle. Hey, you know what? There's so much to talk about here. You want to make sure you're using topical vitamin C, lipophilic vitamin C. I'd be making sure I was doing all the major antioxidant nutrients, including glutamine. But it's much more than I can talk about here in the 60 seconds that I have for you. Can I get you to call back tomorrow about that? Because it is a serious issue. You don't want to be messing around with melanoma. Melanoma is bad news. It's one of the leading causes of cancer deaths. Not that I want to freak you out here, but it's something that you want to take very seriously. So can you, I just don't, it won't be fair to try to answer your question in 60 seconds. Can you call back tomorrow? That'd be great because we can help a lot of people. Thanks so much, Jason. I appreciate it. All right, that's all the time we have for today, folks. I appreciate all you guys. I appreciate all your letters, and I appreciate all your Facebooks and all your love and support. For you guys in Wichita Falls, hope to see you this Saturday at Bob and Judy Bell and Alicia Henderson's event. And then if you're in the Austin area, hope to see you at Brave New Books next Thursday, the 23rd of January. I think it's the 23rd of January. It's next Thursday, a week from tomorrow at Brave New Books. If you want to learn more about the longevity products, please head over to my website, brightsideben.com, and click on the Join the Team link. You can also call the Brightside Ben phone team at 866-735-2470, 866-735-2470. For you guys listening to the Dead Doctors Don't Lie program, I'll be filling in for Doc Wallach today, so hopefully you guys can listen into that. All right, that's all the time we have for today. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Thanks so much for listening. Have a wonderful, beautiful day. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.